Logan, are you in the control room this morning?
That's me, Ray.
Oh, hi, Ray. We'll give us a minute here, but I couldn't remember who was in the room. All right, Ray, if you're ready,
I don't know.
we'll do a countdown.
Ready.
3, 2, 1.
I hereby declare the Kansas County Board of Commissioners is now in session. Will you all please stand as we say the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. And I wish everyone a good day. Looking at the agenda, we have a lot of action items, and we'll just move on to the very first part of that agenda, and that'll be the consent agenda. We have four, for the audience, we have 4 items on our agenda. They're the typical minutes from the last meeting and paying the bills and the warrants, but this meeting, we also have the human services warrants and claims and cancellation of certain warrants. You've all received copies, digital copies of this information, and had a chance to review them. If there's no questions or concerns or nobody wishes to pull any of those items for further discussion, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the
A
consent.
motion by Commissioner Anderson, and do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Gardner. Any further discussion, comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passed unanimously. Now, I'd like to move on to resolution number 2022-47 and call Mr. Gary Gear, Kansas County Environmental Service Director. Good morning, Gary.
Good morning.
Gary.
Thank you. Good morning, Board. Yes, this is resolution number 2022-47, and it is the solid waste management market tax, I can't say it right, solid waste management tax market price resolution. And the statute requires that a political subdivision that subdivision, maybe I need to slow down.
That's okay.
Requires a political
We got plenty of
subdivision
time.
that subsidizes solid waste services below the cost of their market price to pay the solid waste management tax on the difference between the subsidized price and the market price. So that's what this resolution establishes. It is up a little bit from last year. Basically, the tipping fee that we received, that we would receive from waste management went from $39 to $42.50, and then the fuel price went from 9 cents to 12 cents. So when you factor in those numbers, our market price that we would be declaring this morning in this resolution is $56.77. And ultimately, this is a pass-through. This is so that we collect the appropriate amount of solid waste tax, and then we're submitting it to the state. So with that, staff would be recommending this resolution be approved.
Okay.
I will so move.
A motion by Commissioner Nissen and a second by
I'll second that.
Commissioner Mdek. Any further questions or comments or discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously.
You want to sign it?
Yes, please, if
Sure, I can go ahead.
you would choose. And you've,
And you're going to be back for some other,
yes, and I'll be back.
here yet, for some other resolutions, I understand. There you go. Thank you very much. Now, I'd like to call on Mr. Mark Thompson, Kansas County Auditor Treasurer. Good morning, Mark.
Morning, Mr. Chair, board members. So I'm here to present Resolution 2022-48, which is an authorization for an interfund loan for the Glacial Lake Sanitary Sewer Water District Phase 2 project. Bonding for this project will not take place until approximately September of 2023. So as to meet the bond spend down requirements, they need an interfund loan. That interfund loan would be between the Capital Equipment Fund and the loan from the Capital Equipment Fund to the Capital Projects Fund. Glacial Lake Sanitary Sewer Water District is requesting a $945,500 interfund loan be made to cover the costs related to the preliminary design and engineering for this project. So again, bonding will not take place until September of 2023, and they wish to start design on this project in the fall of 2022, asking for a $945,500 loan, interfund loan from the Capital Equipment Fund to the Capital Projects Fund. That's what this resolution is about. So,
Mr. Kleindahl.
This is not the first time we've done something like this. We have done this before. So what we did is we looked at the past resolutions of how we advanced the money to ourselves. And then we paid, once we got the grant, we paid ourselves back. So this is not something that's unique. Matter of fact, I believe after remembering the process, Mark had brought it to a meeting, showed us how we did it in the past. And so we just followed the same process.
Any further questions or comments? Otherwise, entertain a motion.
I'd move on that.
Motion by Commissioner Endek
I'll second it.
and a second by Commissioner Anderson to approve resolution number 2022-48. Any further discussions or comments? We were all fairly aware of the situation coming up, so at this point then, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passed unanimously. All right. And looking at the agenda, Mark, you have one.
yep, one more
One more
resolution. Resolution 2022-49. It goes along with 2022-48. It is a resolution intent to reimburse once Glacial Lakes receives the bonding for this project, Phase 2. The capital equipment fund would be reimbursed for the $945,500 loan. And again, this is mandatory due to IRS regulations. They require that we have a resolution in place.
Okay. Commissioners?
I'll move 2022-49.
Motion by Commissioner Nissen and a second by
I'll second.
Commissioner Gardner. Any further comments or discussion at this point? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passed unanimously.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much. And Mark, I was just going to switch things around if you don't mind, Mr. Odens. You got one more item further down. I know because of the computer, we get placed every different places. We're all mixed up, and we have several things to give presentations to the board. And this one looks like a very short one, and I think we're all aware of this one coming up as well. And would you want to proceed?
Thank you.
with-
Yeah,
with
thank you
the
so
one?
much. I don't have to wait around.
And for the board's information, it is the one at 9:35 time slot, dealing with the county canvassing board appointees. Okay, you want to proceed?
Sure, yep. And Mr. Chair, you're talking about Resolution 2022-53. And again, that's appointment of commissioners to the 2022 County Canvassing Board. The Canvassing Board consists of myself, the court administrator, the mayor of the largest city, which is Wilmer, and then 2 members of the county board who are not up for reelection. And so what I'm proposing is that the Candido County Board appoint Commissioner Roger Emdike and Commissioner Steve Gardner to the Candido County Canvassing Board. The other 3 gentlemen are up for re-election this year, so Raleigh's not, but it's his district, so we're looking at Commissioner Gardner and Commissioner Emdike.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move that.
Yeah.
I'll move that.
Motion by Commissioner Anderson. The chair will second the motion.
Thank you.
Right, any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you.
Mr.
Yes, please, Commissioner Endek.
As long as you're at the podium, do we have a date set for that yet, or do we set that later?
I believe we did
November
set it.
16.
We did set a date for that.
It's in the resolution, November 16th.
Yes.
At
it
11
is.
o'clock, it's already on, so
Yep. Okay. I know we set it at the,
canvassing last
yeah.
month.
Thank you, Mark. Now I'd like to call on County Public Works Director, Mr. Mel Odens. Good morning, Mel.
Morning, Mel.
Morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. This is the third part of the waste treatment improvements to the plant. So we did the resolution, we did the intergovernmental loan, and now it's going to pay for preliminary and design services to complete the upgrades at the plant. And so what you've got is we're applying for a grant, point source grant, and they need a resolution of support from the county board to fund the services of design engineering. So my request to you would be to approve Resolution 22-50, which would kind of be the support letter so we can finish applying for the point source grant of up to $5 million. And if you may recall, it's going to be all the treatment processes and then site improvements, and the work is going to be all done out at the Glacial Lakes plant itself, not anything outside the gates.
Commissioners, any questions, comments?
I will so move.
A motion by Commissioner
I will second.
Gardner and a second by Commissioner Nissen. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. And next, I'd like to call on Mr. Gary Gear.
Thank you.
Yep, Environmental Services, and he's filling in for Eric Van Dyken, zoning administrator. And you have a couple zoning,
Well, this one is just the amendment to the North Fork Crow River watershed.
oh, that's right, I'm jumping ahead.
Yep, okay. So this item is an amendment to the North Fork Crow River Comprehensive Watershed Management Plan. And the partners associated with that desire to move forward with this amendment. And then it serves to set policy for the allocation of the funds from watershed-based implementation funding. So it is the desire of the group to amend and allow for this to occur, and therefore staff is recommending approval of this amendment, and then the motion language to concur with the decision of the coordinating partner, Wright County SWCD, to proceed with the amendment of the North Fork Crow River Watershed Management Plan. So the request would be to have that motion before you.
Commissioner Mdek.
Sure. Excuse me. Thank you, Gary. So these amendments are basically minor amendments, and the North Fork One Watershed, One Plan Policy Committee does have commissioners from each of the counties on it, and as well as members that are from watershed districts in the county, in the watershed, and SWCDs, and it's their recommendation, and it's fairly minor, but it's a formality each county, each entity has to go through in order for this to take place. So I would move to accept this these amendments.
A motion by Commissioner Mdek to accept the amendment, second by
I'll second that.
Commissioner Anderson. Any further discussion, comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the votes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, now, and we'll be coming back later again for a couple more, I understand. Next, I would like to go back to Mr. Mel Odens, Candido County Public Works Director.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I've got, the first one's going to be the Trail and Lighting Co-op Construction Agreement with the state of Minnesota. And I don't know if we want to pop it up on the screen, Larry, but I
Sure
can
can.
maybe quickly show you. This work is all part of the Highway 23 gap project, filling in the gaps that you're going to start next year. And what you've got in this resolution is you've got two things covered. in the resolution. The first one is going to be for trail maintenance. And
Zoom in
maybe
here.
zoom in a little bit.
Yep, I will.
And maybe it's going to be maybe a little bit difficult to,
If you want to slide up just a little bit.
because I don't have a map of the entire area. I wonder if I've got that
That way.
on. Something else.
Yes, when I was reading this material ahead of time, I was looking at that map. There's a lot of information on
There's
that.
a lot of information on there. And then I was thinking I had a map that showed the overall. I did. I don't know where it is. All right, we'll go from there. So anyway, there's going to be a trail underneath Highway 23, and it connects the Glacial Lakes Trail over to the south side of 20. This is Highway 23 right here and right here. And when this is the existing lanes, and then this will be the new lanes. Right in the Howick area, the lanes are going to be shifted a little bit to the north to take some of the gap in where the existing trailhead is. So what they're going to do is they're going to take a trail, a box culvert, if you will, and go underneath Highway 23 to the south side. And this area here is in the vicinity of there's a campground area, would be about a mile west of Howick. And so it's going to connect this, but since the trail, it's off the DNR property, they need another agency to do the maintenance of the trail. So what we would be agreeing to do is we would be agreeing to maintain the pavement of the trail only. Plowing snow, crack filling, debris removal, snow removal, et cetera. The rest of the work and the ownership of the trail itself, the box, is going to be in the state of Minnesota's hands. So we would just be doing trail maintenance. And so and that's just how the process works, because this is the only trail we have in 15 miles that we own, but that's just how it is. And so that's the trail maintenance part of this resolution. And then as far as the lights go, then there's a lighting part of this. And the lights, the first light is if you go to Howick,
Thank you.
there's a house that sits right here. This is the quote, Main Street of Howick, kind of an east-west piece. There's a light there. And then there's also a light where our current County Road 2 goes south off of 23. There's a light on each side of the corner. So we pay for power, we pay for light or bulb replacement, and we pay for knockdowns. The state installs the lights with the project and the power. So it's my recommendation to approve the resolution to authorize signature of this agreement on behalf of the county.
Mr. Mdek.
I would move on the resolution, then I have a question.
Okay. Commissioner Mdek moves on, makes a motion to approve resolution number 2022.
Dash 51.
Dash 51, and, right. And do we have a second?
I'll second it.
A second by Commissioner Nissen. Now, Commissioner Mdek, please proceed.
You know, regarding the lights, and I know we've talked about this before, how they can be a real pain to maintain and somewhat expensive to maintain. Are they really that necessary, and do we have a choice if we wanted to not have lights there?
I think in this location it would be very consistent where there's a community to have a light. The other lights up and down the road wouldn't. That would be more of a call on if it's warranted by safety or warranted by public demand. And so that's why you're right. They are expensive because we pay for the meter cost and we pay for the lights and we pay for the power and we pay for for any maintenance, painting, et cetera. So
And a follow-up question, if I may. Is there a reason it's not within the scope of the project, or why it's not covered in the cost of the Highway 23?
the installation of the lights are in the scope of the project, so that's covered under the project, but everything after that is ours. So, yeah, it's kind of a, it's kind of a frustrating thing sometimes, because sometimes they predetermine where lights go, and and you deal with it.
Administrator Kleindl.
Mel, if the county in the future years, say a decade from now, the board says, we don't want this expense, can they cancel this?
I believe there's an out clause on all these, Chris. You could, I don't know the language for sure, but usually in any agreement, there's usually an out clause.
Any further questions? Okay, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. Now you have one more resolution here, number 2022-53.
And Mr. Chair, this is literally a housekeeping resolution.
No, 52. 52.
52, yeah. This, I put in your packet the old resolution when we applied for the RAISE grant, and now we're applying for the rail crossing elimination grant. They literally want, so the changes in this grant are nothing more than the cost. We have a current cost that was upgraded. The administrator's signature is going to be on there, and then they wanted a current date. So it's the exact same resolution that we passed in April of this year with those three changes. The grant name, the signature of the administrator, and the estimate. That's it. So it's a housekeeping. They wanted a current resolution to match the grant application. So that's it.
I'll make that
A
motion.
motion by Commissioner Nissen, and is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Gardner. Any further comments or questions at this point? Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mel, question. Now, the funding source for this would be regular programming through the federal government?
No, it's not really, it's discretionary grant programming.
Okay.
It's not program funds, it'd be a discretionary. So this is one that actually we'll be discussing this week when we're out in Washington, to get letters of support for this from the congressional delegation, because these are competitive. Our message is that this is the completion of a multi-million-dollar, the locals have invested almost $200 million out here, and we're just asking for $6 million to support.
And these are then, if I may, funding that's separate from anything that's coming out of the new Inflation Reduction Act.
It's not the inflation, it's the IIJA funds is where the discretionary funds come from. So it's in the new program, the federal program, part of the safety part, and which is part of the railroad part.
But yet there is some bridge funding coming out of that program as well, correct?
Yes, yep.
And you've looked at that? Okay.
Yep.
All righty, outstanding, thank you.
Okay. Any further questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. At this point, we are going to take a 5-minute break.
Ray, you about ready?
Ready.
We'll do a countdown, 3, 2, 1.
I hereby call the Candido County Board of Commissioners back in session. At this point, I'd like to call on Candido County Environmental Services Director, Mr. Gary Gear. Good morning, Gary.
Good morning again. Thank you,
Again,
Mr.
yes.
Chairman. And yes, this agenda item is a request from the Environmental Services Department as well as Administrator Kleindl to move forward with the sale of the old recycling center facility.
I'll back that out, Gary. Just give me a second.
Yep. It,
One more time, Gary, right
going, yep.
there. Huh? That probably, well, maybe I'll go one more.
There.
There we go.
This out. And so the recycling center facility is this building, of course, and then it sits on a 6.79 acre parcel. Currently, this building is leased by the CCT bus company. This facility is community services, and this building is our HHW facility. So all sitting on one piece of land, and with our transition from our own multi-sort recycling center facility to the single-sort recycling program, we are no longer actively using this facility or this building, and that is why the request is coming before you this morning. So again, the request is to move forward with the sale of the recycling center building.
Administrator Kleindl.
So in order to sell this and make it workable, the county has to maintain their interest and watch out for their interest of the buildings, excluding the former recycling center building. And so I've asked Gary Gear to work with our surveying company and also with the city of Wilmer to develop parcels and plat this out. This is what you see before you. The city has looked at it, but really has to come to you guys first. If you are in agreement with your plan, then Gary would then submit it back to the city for approval. Then after the city approves it, then we would bring it back here. Then we would put it up for bids. This is not the bid process today. What all this is do you agree with how the layout is for if we sell it, for other entities to come in and use this land, this property? We want to maintain, so we have an opportunity to have trucking and vehicles come through, but we also have to make it workable so we don't landlock them, and so they can't get trucks and stuff in their facility. And so what this is a drawing that says, this is what the plat looks like. Do you agree with this? And if so, you would let Gary know that, and then he would then submit it to the city of Wilmer for approval. If that's approved, then we'd come back and we'd talk about the bid process, and by law, we have to give at least a 3-week notice for advertising. So all today is, do you like how it's laid out? And if you have any input, we're here to listen to you. If you think there's another way that could be laid out.
Thank you, Administrator Kleindl. Commissioner Anderson.
Yeah, I have a question. So did you talk with the people that are using these different, like Lot 1? You know, because
That's him.
my concern would be between Lot 1 and Lot 2 that there's enough space for the properties for people to get around it if they want, or that's just
Currently, it's still all us yet. It's all county
Yeah.
use.
Yep.
And the proposed line between Lot 1 and Lot 2 is simply establishing the minimum setbacks from the structures. So that's, those dimensions are given to us by the city ordinances. So
Yeah, so my concern is if it does get split off or sold, is there enough space? Are the people that are on Lot 1, are they okay with that, how it's divided? You know what I'm getting at?
Yes, and I'm struggling just because it's community services at this point.
Okay,
You know,
okay,
it's-
but have they said any, have they had input on it?
They have not given any feedback to me on this,
Okay,
no.
okay.
But they're, and maybe I should add in between Larry and myself too, the one thing that hasn't been said, Outlot A is deemed as the access point, so it would be quarter ownership in Outlot A, and then there would be maintenance use agreements within that language on every individual parcel. So that it has shared access so that you can cross lines and
Okay.
not keep
Oh,
yourself.
so there won't necessarily be a fence where those lines are?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It'd be a common area.
Okay, because I was concerned that maybe if you have to get around there with a truck, it might be a little tight.
Correct.
So,
Yep.
Okay.
You're right.
And Commissioner Nissen, please proceed.
I'm just a bit confused about the Lot 1. They're not two, they're going to be one lot, but not connected?
Which lot one are you referring
Lot
to?
1 is the recycling, and then the other Lot 1 is the community service. They're both Lot 1, but are they connected at all? I'm not seeing.
They're different blocks. That's why it's lot 1 and lot 2 of block 1 and lot 1 and lot 2 of block 2.
Okay.
So that's
I
think
see.
the
Didn't see that. That covers my other question then, why there's other Lot 2s.
gotcha.
Administrator Kleindl.
So just so you know, Gary and I did have conversations about on Block 2, Lot 1, should we dispose of that property as well? And then look for other places for that facility. It'd make it plotting that out much more workable, especially with CCT also looking at developing a future bus garage. But with the prices of materials to build another facility, at this time, it just doesn't make sense to do that, and we don't have a ready place. And so being fiscally conservative.
Just bought that one building down there on County.
Being fiscally conservative, we thought we'd go with what we have and try to make this work. But we are open to your suggestions and want to hear them.
I'd just like to add, this is nothing, actually for the audience and people watching this on YouTube as well, that this is something we've been talking about for a long time. And it's a matter we've been actually putting it off to see what CCT was going to be doing.
Correct.
And we made this decision. And now this is actually the first time we've probably sat down with the map. So this is nothing new to us, but you need permission to move ahead. And I'd just like to reassure everybody too, Mr. Gear, since these other properties are either our joint powers or part of the county stuff, he's going to be very sure that we have plenty of room.
Do we have any prospects for purchasing that? Or you said move ahead with the sale, that term kind of made me wonder whether.
Sure.
Yeah. Mr. Kleindl.
We have had people inquiring about the property. Again, I've been telling them that the first obligation to us was the CCT. And since that's passed, we've had people inquire about it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. At this point, I entertain a motion to approve this request to move forward.
I will so move.
A motion by Commissioner Gardner and a second
I'll
by
second that.
Commissioner Anderson. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Gary.
Now, I believe next up on the agenda is Mr. Odens again, Canada County Public Works Director, and you are looking for a payment and acceptance of a final payment. Huh?
Right. Actually,
Want me to put the map up?
maybe it wouldn't hurt. We
Just
could,
refresh everybody?
yeah, we could. I'm going to do two things.
Put it up there, Mel, and I'll back it out so we can get it right here. Or is that good enough? I will back it out.
Okay.
you wanna just center it.
That's fine.
Okay.
So if you could, just real quickly, and maybe you want to zoom in, Larry, on this right here.
Okay. More?
This is Howick, and this is a map. I'll just use the bridge map for the map that we talked about with the trail. The trail itself is going to be in the vicinity down here is where that crossing is. And the lights that we just agreed to are going to be, one's going to be on this entrance to the city or to the incorporated area of Howick, and the other one's going to be right here. So those are the two sections where the lights go, and the trail is going to be right down here. So that, just on that. Okay, so now let's go to the bridge. So the action that we're looking for today is to accept the project and authorize final payment to Robert Schroeder Construction. And what we did is we replaced the bridge right here on the North Fork of the Crow River.
Right.
And we let that project in July of 2021, and we completed it this summer. The work that we did this summer was nothing more than finalized painting of the piling, because when they completed it, the water actually, if you can believe this, was high when they wanted to complete it. So we waited till the water dropped back down as low as we could, and then so we painted it. So the project is complete. If you've ever been over it, it rides very nice. It was a much needed bridge. It was a posted bridge that was replaced, one of our worst bridges actually for the consideration of the arterial of the traffic. So it's my recommendation to accept the project, authorize final payment in the amount of $9,341.60 to Robert R. Schroeder Construction.
Also move.
Commissioner Nissen makes a motion to approve, and a second from
I'll second that.
Commissioner Emdek. Any further questions or comments? Commissioner Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mel, just as a point of information for anybody who's watching or listening in today, the county's share of this project was pretty small, around 5 or 6% of the.
5%, yep. Yes. We got federal money and we got state bridge bonding money, yep. We were successful in this, yep,
Outstanding. Thank you.
yep.
Thank you, Commissioner Gardner. That was a good point to bring up again. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. Thank you for bringing that forward. Give it back to you later and I'll sign it. Thank you. Now I'd like to call on Mr. Gary Giroux. Gary is Candido County Environmental Service Director, and you are filling in for Eric Van Dyken from the Zoning Administration.
Correct. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Mr. Chairman. And these are the two conditional use permits that the Planning Commission heard last Monday at their public hearing, September 12th. And the first application was from Dunnick Incorporated, Section 27 of Roseville Township, just on the east side of County Road 2 and south side of Highway 23. They're proposing to mine and process gravel and granular materials and related stockpiling. So there was a representative of Dunnick present and explained the request, and looked like several neighboring property owners were present and expressed some interest in the application. And ultimately, the Planning Commission held a discussion, responded to those comments, and then made a decision to recommend unanimously approval of the request with the following conditions and findings. And there are 11 conditions listed out there, and they're relatively standard. A couple of them had little tweaks that the Planning Commission made specific to this application. So with that public hearing process and Planning Commission recommendation, staff is recommending that you approve the request as presented with those conditions and the findings as listed in the minutes.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Emdek.
I would move on this conditional use permit with an amendment to condition number 7. Condition number 7 says access shall be from County Road 2 unless MnDOT authorizes pit entrance from Highway 23. In the language, and I don't care if it's tweaked, but I would prefer that it said something to the effect that that egress from the mine onto County Road 2 only be allowed if documented denial from MnDOT for direct access onto Highway 23 is in the record. So in other words, we're only going to use County Road 2 if we have to, because Highway 20 or MnDOT will not allow egress onto 23.
So that is your motion.
It is. And the reason I do that is maybe we want...
I just looked at Mary to make sure she got that.
Just repeat the change that you want, or the addition.
Egress from the mine onto County Road 2 only be allowed if documented denial from MinDOT for direct egress onto State Highway 23 is in the record,
With facts and findings.
with facts and findings, yep.
Commissioner Gardner,
I will second that motion.
second by Commissioner Gardner. Any further questions, comments, discussion?
Yeah, I'd just like to give the reason for that change is I was mistakenly thinking there already was an egress onto County Road 2, and learned since then that there is not. And that was a concern for the residents of the area of the amount of traffic that was going to be going on and off of 22, or County Road 2. Plus, it does do damage to our roads when those heavy trucks are turning on and off there. So after visiting with the county engineer, that's why I'm making this modest amendment.
Mr. Owens?
Mr. Chair, and then maybe the paperwork's not done, but this will now be 202. So I don't know, for the record, it's old 2, new 202. So indirectly, Gary, I don't know.
Today, it's
Road
still
numbers
2.
change.
It's still 2, yes. Okay.
Let's stay with that.
I just want to make sure that, for the record, that
We're talking about the
that
same
goes,
road.
I mean, you're probably completely a little overboard, but I just want to make sure the board is aware of that as well.
Yep, we're in good shape.
In the future, it'd be helpful too if we had a map with some of these requests.
You know what, Mel had a map a couple minutes ago that, if he could bring that back over there.
Can I ask,
Mr.
can
Kleindl.
I ask the county attorney a suggestion? Should we put that, the new road, it's the former County Road 2, the new road will be 202. Should we have that in the motion so?
You can have it that way, yes.
We may want to do that for future board if there's any challenge to this.
I'm sure, Mr. Chair, I'm sure it doesn't take any board action for this, but you just parenthetically can mark it, soon to be 202 or something to that effect.
You got a question?
I might even suggest put 202 formally County Road 2, because by the time this is all signed, that will happen.
Yeah.
Good point. Any further discussion?
I'd just like to see where it is on the map.
Commissioner-
Up there.
Can you show on the map exactly where it's at? Mel, maybe you want,
Can you zoom out?
He's got it.
zoom out?
I have it, yep.
Okay,
But you gotta move it
yep, I will.
that way.
I can move, here we go, there you go.
There we go.
So it is right here, right along Highway 23.
Okay.
Oh, it's east of
And
Commissioner Emdek.
if I may, the gravel will largely be taken out of the area to the north of that body of water
Correct.
and right along the current Highway 23.
Okay, we have a motion, which I think is clear. And the motion includes the facts and findings and conditions, and I'll call for the vote at this time. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, pass unanimously. The next one is Castle Shores.
LLP,
LLP.
yes, correct. And that is in section 1 of Green Lake Township, 11600 Indian Beach Road. They're proposing a planned unit development that would provide for 11 homes to be built on the property. So the applicants, Roger Punt, Charles DeBerg, and Jane Vixie were present and explained their request. Several property owners, neighboring property owners were present and expressed some questions, and ultimately the Planning Commission discussed those questions as well as the application itself. And following that discussion, motion was made and seconded by the Planning Commission recommending approval of the request with the following conditions and findings. And those 4 conditions, MPCA permitted construction stormwater shall be secured and followed. Any driveway access point changes shall be approved by the county engineer. The vegetative management agreement shall be followed, and watercraft mooring sites not to exceed 11, 1 for each unit. So with those conditions, the Planning Commission is unanimously recommending the county board approve the request as presented.
I will make that motion.
A motion by Commissioner Nissen.
With facts and findings?
With facts and findings
With
and
facts and
conditions.
findings, yes.
And a second?
I'll second
Second
that.
by Commissioner Anderson. Any discussion? I had a question. With all the conditions and findings, the citizens that were there, are they aware of the conditions they recommended and the findings?
I would say yes, they
They're
were
aware.
established that night at the meeting.
Okay. And I did have a question looking through this, and not being able to see a map neither. There's some talk about the mooring and docks. And so what is that going to actually look like? So I understand that better.
The layout ultimately will be approved by the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources. They would have the oversight over, the requirement is to get to navigable water. So that's what they have the flexibility to work with a property owner on and establish that layout. So the number of sites is what our ordinance governs and has the ability to comment on.
Okay. I think there's some concern about the docks, like, so how many docks would there be? You don't know because of all of that.
Correct. I mean, and maybe Roger, if there was anything specifically that I'm missing, not having been at the meeting, but the language of our ordinance discusses centrally located water-oriented facilities. So they can't have they're not going to be able to have 11 docks across the frontage of the property, so it's going to be centrally located in one. I'm just not able to speak to the layout out into the water.
Mr. Chair, the mooring sites essentially are the docks. So
Oh,
they're
yeah.
limited to
I was
11,
wondering. Yeah, okay.
one per unit.
Okay,
Gotcha.
all right. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of the conditions and findings, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Would you care to sign now, Mr. Chairman? Or?
Can I do that later?
Yes. Yep.
Won't be too much later. Okay. Thank you. At this point, I'd like to call on Kansas County Health and Human Services Director, Jenny Lippert. And I understand you have a short update on the procurement process with Prime West and DHS. Please proceed.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the board. I'm here to provide just a little update as to where things are at currently with the healthcare procurement process. So again, our county and 32 other counties across the state had opted into the mediation process with DHS as we were not in agreement with DHS's award contracts. And after the procurement process was completed, we didn't feel as though we received what we had wanted. The mediation hearing took place back in August. The mediation involved folks from the Department of Human Services, all 33 mediating counties, the 3 different county-based purchasing health plans throughout Minnesota, and then a panel of selected attorneys. The mediation was looking at the overall procurement process, the different plans that were selected and awards that were given to the counties and those county-based purchasing health plans. Just last week, we received the response from the mediation panel, along with a ruling from the DHS commissioner giving her final order. There still is an open court case right now, which we have not heard the ruling on, and that has to do with the role of county-based purchasing in Minnesota and the statutes and interpretation of what DHS is saying, that counties are required to have a minimum of 2 plans and that each plan must be maintained in each county, and that single plan is not a viable option. So we still don't know about that yet. But the concerning piece of the final order and the recommendations from the mediation panel was that Commissioner Harpstead gave her final order to choose that DHS has already decided which health plans are in our county, and she wants to move forward with that decision. There is no change in the contracts being offered by either the county-based purchasing contracts and health plans or those awards that have been given to us at the county level. Commissioner Harpstead, in her final order, did indicate that DHS knows default plan is a priority to the county-based purchasing counties, and that she will consider this strongly in the upcoming contract negotiations. The mediation panel gave 2 different sets of recommendations. One set of recommendations was if the court found that DHS was legally obligated to award single planned contracts to county-based purchasing counties, And the second one was that if the court concluded that DHS was not obligated to do so, and again, in the mediation recommendations, there's a list for both different directions depending on where this court ruling goes. One thing I wanted to point out in the recommendations and with Commissioner Harpstead's final order is the county-based purchasing health plan that operates in Itasca County, IM Care. They did move forward with allowing single plan for families and children's, and I think that was concerning to our attorneys that were representing us, because that does show maybe some unfair treatment in that regard. Since Commissioner Harpstead ordered her final order before the court ordered their opinion, again, Commissioner Harpstead is going forward with option 2 of the mediation recommendation, which is what they view their representation of the law is. So the mediation panel also gave a recommendation that doesn't have anything to do with what the court ruling will decide, and that was recommending that DHS, the counties, and other stakeholders seek legislative action to replace the current county-based purchasing model with what the panel called county administered rural medical assistance. Or CARMA is the acronym for that. The idea with this would be that DHS would contract directly with the counties that choose this CARMA under a global budget of all medical assistance covered services, and that DHS would not contract with the MCOs in those counties. So again, that would require a legislative action, but that was their final recommendation. So the judge on the open court case has a statutory deadline to issue an order by this week, Wednesday. So hopefully we'll be hearing. I have heard that if they don't issue every day, there could be a fine attached to it. So hopefully that wraps up here Wednesday. We are still hopeful that a decision will be made and that would overturn what Commissioner Harpstead had in her final order. However, we've been around and done this a number of times, and it hasn't been in favor of what we have been asking at the county level. So next steps, again, we'll wait till we hear what the ruling is from the court order, and then we'll see where things go for us at the county level.
Okay, Commissioner Nissen, do you have anything?
No, I was just going to point out what she just said, that the judge's final ruling will be this week, or maybe, I thought the 26th, but this week would be much better.
But
Sooner the better.
I kind of get the feeling, though, with the final ruling, we kind of thought, come September, this is going to be all settled and done with. It could go on for quite a while, that way it sounds. Any other questions from Commissioner Emdek?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So is this going to be a final ruling subject to appeal by the judge?
Yes, correct.
So in the case of Kaneohe County, who is indicated an interest of joining Prime West, but I don't know that we've fully committed to that yet, have we?
We are members right now, we're not,
Financial.
we're members, but we don't get to partake in any of the benefits. Raleigh's on their board, he has a vote.
So we have sunk costs.
We have some costs.
Sunk
Oh,
costs.
sunk costs.
Oh.
I don't know if we've contributed any dollars to the, we're partners, we're silent partners, basically.
Yeah.
We have not committed any financial means. The board has committed several years ago to, if we were going to join Prime West, dollars for that.
Yeah, Commissioner Emdek.
If I continue, under different conditions than what we have today is where we made the commitment.
Right. Very
And
different.
in the past, we had maybe cursory discussions about self-insurance. If we were self-insured, all of this would be moot, correct? Or are we still going to be directed?
No, that would have nothing to do with these contracts that we have to hold. Again, that's a different procurement process with the state. It would have nothing to do with self-insurance at the county level.
Right.
So we would still be using the whatever, whoever wins the contract for, and we'd have to have two.
That's what they're saying, is that we have to have two based on choice.
If we're self-insured.
It has,
County-based purchasing.
yeah, county-based purchase.
Minister Wendell, you got a
So, yeah, this is basically only on county-based purchasing. This has to do with people in medical assistance that we serve, okay? It's not that's not the
Not our
county,
employee plan.
it's not an employee plan. I think that's where.
Yeah.
So financially, when we agreed to join the county-based purchasing model is based on us having one plan and taking those dollars the revenue that you made on having that one plan, keeping it back, putting it back in your community and subsidizing those providers. What this year plan does, if you were forced to have two, you as a board and other boards would not receive enough revenue to make it fitting to do it. Because part of we have to pay to join Prime West, or county-based purchasing. And we were looking at some point having a payback to make it worth your while. If it's not worth your while, you don't get a payback, financially, it doesn't make sense to do it. And we've been in limbo now for probably going on 5 years now, 4 years. And so if the counties are forced to have two plans, my opinion only, just my opinion, financially, it doesn't make sense to be in a county-based purchasing program. And what I've read from all indications is they may force people that are in county-based purchasing now that we're allowed to be forced to have two plans, and they would have to relook at the impact it would have on them as well. Because if you do county-based purchasing, you end up technically add more staff because you're taking those resources, putting them back into the system. But if you have to split that with another provider, financially, you can't pay your bills.
I'd just like to add that only actually two of the board members were part of that agreement that back then, looking at that plan, it was several $1 million that we have to buy in. And thus, we have an option to look at that. Commissioner Emdack.
So what would the two plan option look like? Who makes that decision? Let's say that county-based purchasing is cheaper than Blue Cross Blue Shield or whoever that other provider is. Is it the client that makes that decision, or how does that work?
So that's why we go through this procurement process. It's supposed to be a neutral process with county stakeholder voices. So again, I represented Candioi County, and I went through hours and hours of scoring each separate plan and how they are running in Candioi County and the services that they offer. And then from there, DHS has a set of objective reviewers. And this process, this time, we came together as a collected group and had robust conversations about why we scored certain health plans the way we scored them. And then we went back to DHS at the county and gave our recommendations on which health plan we chose. And I came to the board and I asked for your agreement with my recommendation. So from there then, DHS took that information and awarded us our health plans. And I have that information, I just can't publicly share that until this is all over. And I will tell you, for some of the health plans, we have more than two that we were awarded, which again creates extra layers of ultimately confusion for those who are on this service. Now, folks that are receiving county health care, they can choose from the contracts that we have, but oftentimes what happens is they just go to a default plan option, and that's what Commissioner Harpstead said in her final order, that she recognizes that being instrumental for the county-based purchasing counties, because oftentimes folks don't choose a specific health plan, they will just go on the default. And I think what could come of this is that we would have leverage on that default health plan and kind of navigating that way.
Commissioner Emdack, please proceed.
So is that leverage because we would be making recommendations potentially to the client of which health plan to choose? I guess I don't get, you got Blue Cross and you got county-based purchasing. I'm receiving services. Which one do I choose and how do I go about
So I think where we're at with the T in the road right now is that this year DHS is viewing the statute different and interpreting it different than how it's always been run for the past how many years. And they're looking at it as though counties must have a minimum of 2 health plans, where before, if you opted into county-based purchasing, and even those counties that are with county-based purchasing, they were single-sourced, and we would be able to choose only having that single source health plan, which would be county-based purchasing in our county. And right now, DHS is saying, per statute, you have to have 2 plans, which then has created this open court case where we're wanting a neutral judge to decide what is the statute and what does that look like?
So I'm understanding that. What I'm not understanding is which of the, how do you choose between Blue Cross in this
client
case?
does.
Huh?
The client
The
chooses.
client does, yeah.
Yeah, they ultimately can, but I think
If you
what
spend
hap-
hours and hours and hours trying to score them, how in the world is the client gonna know which is the best option for them?
So they do work with our staff here, and they do ultimately choose, or sometimes the staff help them, talk to them about it and figure out which plan would work best for
And
them.
is that where our leverage is?
What's that?
Is that where our leverage is our staff is gonna be working with them on?
Well, that puts us in an awkward position, too.
Depends on,
Have
yeah, I think
bias
it really
in the
depends on where all of this comes. There's going to be future decisions that I think you guys as commissioners and the board will need to make based on this court ruling and what moves forward with our contract awards.
I think, Jenny, you made a good point, too, how DHS has changed the rules of the game. And I think they changed the rules of the game that we would have a say, and we were picking where we wanted their single provider, or they wanted that, and this was their out of doing it, that, okay, if they split it up, at least it looks like it's legal from their point of view, but we'll find out. Any other?
Well, just,
Commissioner Wilson?
you mentioned that only 2 of us were on board when this started. We decided to go with Prime West Health because not only is it simpler, but they provide better payback to providers, which in some cases allows, for example, dentistry, which doesn't take MA because they don't pay what they need to cover even their costs. And Prime West has been able to pay just a little bit better, so we've actually, I don't know if we've personally added any dentists in County County, but throughout the system, it did help that shortage a little bit. But they've been very good to their providers as opposed to the big boys, as they.
Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jenny, basically, this is DHS flipping a coin and saying, heads I win, tails you lose.
Yeah.
Yes? It's the type of heavy-handed, top-down overmanagement of what we should be able to do as a local elected body. And this is the kind of thing that makes people crazy about state-level government.
Any other questions or comments? The reason we're into this is because of legislative action that the counties could do this, and that's what we thought we had the right to do. And it's not like we're disagreeing with DHS right now because of this, but there's legislative reasons we're doing it, and it's been operating in many counties that way all these years, just that now more people are going to join that group, and they didn't like it. Yeah. Okay. Any further questions?
No.
It's good to have this discussion, though, as we move forward. Please proceed.
Yes, I would just say that I will be back when we get the final order. I will definitely relay through Administrator Kleindl, and he can send the information out to you guys directly as it pertains. And then I also will be back at a future board meeting giving that final order, next steps, and figuring out where we go with all of this.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lippert, for this good update. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. At this point, I'd like to call on Mr. Fall. And good morning, Mr. Fall. And Mr. Fall is the Minnesota Department of Transportation, correct?
You guys have the handouts, the maps, or?
Yep.
Yep.
Pass them out.
Don't forget me.
Pardon me?
Don't forget my Prairie Woods.
Oh, did I jump over you?
It's okay.
Sorry, thanks. I'm jumping all over the place.
Would I be able to
once
get
I
one of
start-
those handouts? I got it on here, but
You know, maybe just,
sure,
Oh,
that'd be good.
Okay. We can pass them down if you want.
yeah. This way we can write on it
And
rather
if you
than the
want,
computer.
when you go up there, you put this up, I can show that on TV.
Because it's all being live streamed and on YouTube too. Yep, right on the,
I'll show you.
yeah, and it'll show up on the screen on the side too. You'll be
I'll
able
take
to
one,
see.
so it's on
Oh, sorry.
put on screen.
Yep,
I'll come up there and help you.
A single
we
payer
go.
system versus,
A handout.
yeah.
I'm
Oh,
familiar.
Something big
Different
enough
ones,
to see.
There you go.
I know it's heavy for your notes, Tony.
Oh, yeah. You got lots of paper, huh?
You want one? Want to give them, the media, some copies, Tony?
Oh, sure.
are these two the same? All right, why don't we give one to Shelby later?
Policy B. You're in the-
How's that, Mel? Is that good enough?
Yeah, that-
2023.
I think maybe just zoom into Candy Lake County. I probably will
Actually, grab
focus
two.
more on Candy Lake.
Just do Kennebec County?
I would, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, that's all that really matters.
yeah. We'll just, in and out,
Where's the list?
that one? It's called teamwork.
Exactly.
Essentially becoming a base.
That's next year.
All right, so I'll get out of your way and you can do your notes here. Yep.
Well, Mr. Fall, I like maps, and the county commissioners had a joint fair booth this year, and as in past years as well, when some of us had fair booths. Mr. Oden's always provided us with good maps of roads and streets, and when people come to the fair, they want to know the roads and what's going to be happening next year and the year after, and this is
Yep.
kind of good information for us to have. Much appreciate you being here. Please proceed.
Not a problem. Like Mr. Berg said, I am Tony Fow. I am with the Minnesota Department of Transportation. I work in the planning department. I've worked there for 30 years already, so, and I'm kind of in charge of the whole program for MnDOT, so.
All right.
As you are all aware, there was no transportation bill passed this legislative session, so, and there's no special session currently planned, so we're kind of losing some money right now, so,
Not only losing money, but it's going to cost us more.
exactly.
Yes.
Because currently MnDOT is not able to use any of the federal transportation funding because we don't have the match for it. So it started in fiscal year 2022, and we're kind of currently losing millions of dollars right now. We're starting a program fiscal year 2023, but that's kind of slow process. We've been kind of working with the local entities and through the MnDOT process, so. This work is anticipated to be complete in time for incorporation in the next year's step for the IIJA funding, or the Infrastructure in the Jobs Act. So I'm going to present the area the state transportation improvement plan. That's the whole 10 years of our program. And I'm just going to spell out the projects in Candy Lake County. So starting in fiscal year 2023, we have the 4-lane gap, and it's called the South Gap. We're going to let that this year. And then we're going to do some safety improvements. That project for the safety improvements at the junction of Highway 9 and 71, it shows here fiscal year 2023, but we kicked it out to 2024. We still don't know what we're going to do with it yet. We're still doing some outreach within the local in New London. Then there's a Trunk Highway 23 tree cutting near Highway 9 in New London. That one probably get dropped because we'll probably let the other project early enough where we don't need to do the tree cutting. We usually do the tree cutting if the project is let later in the fiscal year because of the bats. And then
Oh, yes.
we have to do the tree cutting prior to the construction of the project. The next one is also in red. It's the CASA 5 and Highway 23 ramps, the on and off ramps west of Wilmer.
May I interrupt you? Can you comment
Sure.
a little bit more about, you said the bats?
Yeah.
For the public might be interested in knowing that.
Well,
There's a lot of details involved in.
yeah, I don't know all the details. If you want to know all the details, I can find the process out for you. But
Yeah.
the bats
No,
are
that's fine.
protected, so we
Yeah.
gotta watch out for
Yeah.
when we cut the trees down. And there's a certain season when we can cut the trees down. So,
Thank you.
not a problem.
Mel?
Mr. Oden?
Mr. Chair, the long-eared bat is been listed as a threatened and endangered species, and so they want you to remove trees during their hibernation period. So they don't hibernate in trees, but when they come out of hibernation, they roost in trees, or the potential to roost in trees. So we have to have trees cut down before March of any given year. So what we will do is, over the winter, we do that with our projects every year. We, to not have to do any more work, we do tree removal for next year's work during the winter for the protection of the bat.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. The next one is, we covered the CASA 5 one. Next one is in orange on the map. It's Highway 23 in CASA 1. It's a left turn lane by Princeburg. And this one, we got special freight funding for this project. Next project is in fiscal year 2025. It is green on the map. And it is Highway 71 in CASA 3. This is the left turn lane down by the Spaya Road. And that one, we also got special freight funding on. And the next project is in fiscal year 2028. It's on Highway 12 in Wilmer. It's 11th Street Southwest to 6th Street Southeast. It's a concrete pavement rehab and also a medium mill and overlay and ADA upgrades. Next one is also in purple in fiscal year 2028. It's on Highway 71. It's the southbound junction of 23 and 71 to Highway 294, and the northbound from 294 to 23 and just west of CASA 5 to west junction of Highway 71. It's a non-bonded concrete overlay. Then we jump to fiscal year 2030. It's pink on the map. This was on Highway 40. It's from County Road 4 or old.
Tony, if you can use your finger, kind of show what you're talking
Oh, I
about.
sure can. I
so
might
people
get lost
watching-
here, but
Yep, so they can kind of see.
so the 2028 is on, let's start with 71 here. That's right up here. Goes down into here. And then 2030, it's in pink. That's this one right here. And then 2032, that's light blue on the map. It's Highway 71. It's cold in place recycle from Wilmer 4 lane to just north of Highway 71. So that's this one right here. Put it off to the side right here. And that's all the projects in our 10-year plan for Kansas County. Is there any questions?
Commissioners? Commissioner Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tony, thank you for the maps and for showing us what is planned, and also for mentioning the difficulty faced by, well, really all of us when the state government the state legislature didn't get their work done. I do have a question regarding all of the work that's going to be done on State Highway 40 over the years. These appear to be what's called reclaim and overlay. Can you explain what that is? And secondly, can you tell us if there's going to be any widening of the shouldering on that road?
Currently, we do not have any widening planned. We do have a shoulder widening policy that we're kind of developing right now and prioritizing which projects will come first. And that we're not quite done with that one yet, so.
The reason I'm asking that question is I have a family member who travels that road every day. And every day they are thankful to escape with their life. Because this is a 60-mile-an-hour road with really,
slopes.
really steep slopes and narrow shouldering. It's inconceivable to me that this is a 60-mile-an-hour road. And I know that you folks have criteria for this sort of thing. But this last summer, we lost people in some horrific accidents coming off of our county road system over that highway. I would implore you to bring back to MnDOT our concerns for our constituents and our friends and family that use this road every day.
I will bring it back, and I know it's been on our radar, and there's a lot of roads that we have the shoulder, that needs a lot of shoulder widening. And I know 59's been brought up at our ATP meeting, and still on our radar. It costs a lot of money, and we're kind of limited on funds right now, but hopefully with this new IIJA that we can hopefully get some.
Kind of seems to me if you're going to be doing these rehab projects anyway, that would potentially be the time to do a widening.
Yep.
But that's just an elected official as a layman thinking out loud.
Exactly.
So, thank you.
Not a problem.
Mr. Paul, yes, I have to also say I've noticed the narrow roads there, no shoulder to speak of, and it is dangerous. And I remember years back, somebody was trying to bicycle along there and got hit and killed on there. And so you probably recall that too. So I'm sure you hear a lot about that. I did, along that same line, how many miles of road do you have to oversee and plan for?
I don't know the exact miles
Okay.
right off the top of my head.
That'd
but-
be huge. Okay, thank you. Any further questions and comments from the board?
No, I can just add, though, that this certainly at the ATP meetings, Highway 40 has been brought up almost
Yes, it
every
has.
meeting was at, so. And with the increased dairy traffic out there, it becomes even more and more important. Not to mention all the other agricultural uses on that road, so.
Appreciate you reconsidering that. Thank you.
Not a problem.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much. Very good
No
update.
problem.
And I want to thank you for coming here and giving us this presentation. And as we look ahead as our projects and how they all fit in, and Mel comes, it reinforces what he does as well. So
Exactly.
thank you. Thanks
No
for
problem.
working together and a good working relationship we have. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Now I'd like to call on Kennewick County Administrator, Mr. Kleindahl, and you want to talk to us about some special hunts.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. Mr. Chair, Larry Kleindahl, Kennewick County Administrator, here before you today to ask for permission for the Prairie Woods Environmental Learning Center to hold their annual special hunts. I come before you each year. I just want to get these here pictures up here so you can see it. I met with Jennifer Swanson a couple weeks ago in my office and reviewed how things are going at Prairie Woods and Environmental Learning Center and all the projects and things they have in mind. They have a lot of good things going on. I think she's doing a terrific job of getting things together. This year, hunts that I'm asking for permission for approval to hunt on is the October youth mentor pheasant hunt with Pheasants Forever. It's an annual thing that they take youth out there, and you can see some pictures here with the kids. November 11th to the 13th, they have a special deer hunt for hunters with disabilities. And on December, they have another deer hunt with the Midwest Outdoors Unlimited Muzzleloader Hunt. We own the property, and so under MCIT, I come before you to get permission each year, so you authorize it. All hunts at Prairie Woods shall be conducted in a safe, legal, and ethical manner in accordance with the Minnesota DNR rules and regulations. And so they go through a training with the people that come out and hunt and do education. Also, they use it as fundraisers and stuff. It's a great event for engaging not only youth, but people with disabilities and stuff. And it also helps control some of the animal population out there. So,
Mr. Nissen.
I move that we approve all of those mentioned events, and I would speak also to the fact that he's right, there's an awful lot of deer running around at Prairie Woods. They sometimes get hit by cars.
Yes, unfortunately.
So, that's my motion.
A motion by Commissioner Nissen and a second by
I'll second that.
Commissioner Anderson. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I have just one
Please
question
proceed.
for clarification. The December hunt, was that for people with disabilities as well? Or is that just an open muzzleloader?
I believe it's open.
Okay,
There's a drawing, but they try to get people with disabilities out there.
okay.
I know that for sure the 11th to the 13th is a special deer hunt. I have helped participate, taking a hunter out there, and you sit out there and you help them spot deer, help them move the deer. They're taken out on carts. Oftentimes they're in wheelchairs or stuff, and you get them out there in the dark, and you sit there and you wait for action, and you watch their face when they get a deer, or the celebration they have when they're having a nice warm meal after being out in the woods. It's a great day. It's a great experience. If you ever get an opportunity, I encourage you to be out there, at least go out there for the lunch.
Any further questions? I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passed unanimously. Thank you for bringing that forward.
Sure. Mr. Chair, as long as I'm here, I'll do the administrative update reports. I'll just do it
Please,
right from here. In August, all the commissioners received a letter from Ducks Unlimited, John Schneider, regarding Ducks Unlimited pending acquisition of 41.4 acres in Section 21 of Irving Township on the northwest shore of Lake Calhoun in Kansas County for the protection, restoration, and donation to the Minnesota DNR for inclusion in the Dictra Lang State Wildlife Management Area. And the Block family, who lives own land right next to it, wants to donate to Ducks Unlimited this year property for restoration. And so I just wanted to let you know that. I can put a map up here kind of showing on what it looks like. They're not required we don't need any permission, but this is for public information.
Sure.
And so I want to make sure we at least acknowledge this property. So you can see the Lake Calhoun area and the property right along here. And the letter was dated August 19th, and you would have received it in an email.
And what side of the Lake Calhoun is it on? It's on the west side there, southwest?
It looks like the west side, yeah.
West side, thank you.
And,
I looked at the map before. I was wondering,
huh?
Yes, I was wondering before when I looked at the map.
Okay, and the taxes will be paid, the taxes due on this land in 2022 will be paid in full when Ducks Unlimited purchases the land. Duck Unlimited will also pay the 2023 taxes due in full during our ownership before the donation of the land to the state of Minnesota in June of '23. All donations, after the donations, the Minnesota will make an annual payment in PILT money, payment in lieu of taxes, in future years, an estimated amount of $6,142. So this is just for information only. Okay.
Okay.
Next one has to do with the county administrator interviews. You get September 27th, we'll be doing the interviews. Events so far tentatively planned, we would have coffee with staff starting at 8:30 in a multi-purpose room in the Health Human Service Building. However, if there's more than 3 commissioners that plan to attend that, then I would need to publish that as an open meeting under an open meeting law. So I need to know today if more than 3 of you plan to attend that coffee, because then we would do a public notice. And then the public would be able to come. If there's less than 2 of you, then we would just have it for the employees. And
Thank
so
you.
that's your call.
Okay, thank you.
What time
Commissioner Kendall.
is that?
8:30 in the morning.
It'll be
8:30 to about
9.
approximately 9:30.
Yeah, 8:30 to 9:30, and then we'll be interviewing in the afternoon. So
The reason I ask is I will probably be driving the school bus and until at least 8:30. I might make it after that. So
Yeah, and basically during that 8:30, my understanding was just be observation only. So I don't know how essential it is for you to be there, but it's your call. I just need to know, so if there's more than 3, then I do a public.
I think it's listed as a meet and greet.
I was
Commissioner
just
Mdek.
I'm interested, but I can go either way. I'd like to make a quick phone call, if we, regarding that date and that time. If we could take a short break,
That'd be
and then we can report back to you when we do our reports.
Yes, sounds great.
But let's not break until Larry's done.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay, want to get back to, all right. And then we'll take a
So,
break.
and then, so just the rest of the schedule that day, then, starting in the morning, around 9:30, 9:40-ish, there, a leadership team will be interviewing the candidates. Select leadership teams that you guys talked about. I then will also give the candidates a tour of the campuses, approximately 30 to 40 minutes, so we'll be hoofing it pretty quickly through the buildings.
Yeah, I was kind of curious, and I couldn't think of anybody better giving that tour than you, but how are you going to narrow it down to 40 minutes?
Well, I have a plan.
A lot of places to go.
Yep. And then in the afternoon, the board will be interviewing here, the candidates, approximately around 1:15. You'll meet and get your orientations on the packets and stuff, and then around 1:30, the first interview will take place, and approximately 45-minute interviews. So that's your tentative schedule for that day. So,
Any further questions on that?
Mr. Chair, I would suggest that we pack a lunch that day, because it can be a long day.
Yes.
Actually, I think there's a pretty decent break in there.
for the board members, you basically, if you did do the meet and greet, you'd be done at 9:30, and you really wouldn't have anything else until 1 o'clock.
Oh.
So you'll have plenty of time to snooze.
That might enter into my decision.
All right.
That's all I have. I don't think we have any other appointments. I didn't see any other appointments or meetings that we need to acknowledge.
the library board was looking for someone, but who's on the library?
That's me. I'm on that,
Yeah.
so
So,
All right.
we'll have to come up
If
with,
you have someone, if you can get it, we can appoint them.
okay, yep.
All right. All right, let's take a 5-minute break. Candidac County Board of Commissioners back in session. Mr. Kleindahl.
So let's finish my conversation regarding the schedule. As I stated, as we had started talking about the coffee, I realized that if there's more than 3 commissioners under the open meeting law, I would need to do a public notice. And so that's why I need to know today if we can't have more than 2 commissioners there. If you choose to, that's fine. I just have to do a public notice. So what is your wishes?
I'll start on this end. I'd like to leave that morning open for business for myself, so I'll choose not to attend.
I'd rather not be there because I'd maybe have, I'd have to figure out what to do for 4 hours in between that and the afternoon when we interview. So I think I will just pass on it.
Okay.
Because of my conflict with driving school bus, I think I'll pass.
And I have already indicated that I would not be attending the meet and greet.
Okay, so
There'll be one person.
so that makes, so it's not an open event, it's for employees only?
Yep.
All right, thank you for that clarification.
I just think it'd be nice if we had one person there, and that'd be great. I'd be happy to do it. Thank you. Okay.
Thank
Are you done now?
I'm done now. You can do your committee reports.
Okay, committee reports. Commissioner Endek, you ready to go, or should I start at the other end?
No, I think I'm ready to go.
Okay.
So a lot of these are things that we've all attended, and
Yep.
so I'll just shorten up your reports by going first.
Yeah.
So we had the Road and Bridge meeting, and I'll just say that I've told people at the conference last week too, by having our tour via drone, I thought was really, really nice. I mean, not that I don't like going out and driving the roads and seeing them, but I think we saw a lot more from the air than we did, than we would have if we'd have driven it. And so my vote would be, let's continue to do that. It was a good day. And Raleigh, I think you need to practice up a little bit on that backhoe operation. On Thursday and Friday of last week, I attended the AMC Futures meeting in St. Paul. Then when I got home that evening was Music Under the Stars. I don't know, somebody asked earlier, that was at the Prairie Woods Environmental Learning Center. How it turned out, I don't know that yet because we meet tonight, and we'll probably learn that tonight. On September 12th, we had an EDC Broadband Committee. We continue to work really hard on that. I was encouraged, along with Commissioner McDonald from St. Louis County, to apply for the governor's broadband task force, citizens task force. I haven't heard back on, I got the application in about an hour before deadline. Haven't heard back on that. And it could be an elected official from a city or a township or whatever. I think they wanted an elected official. And then we also had planning and zoning that evening, of which we've covered in this board meeting. On Tuesday, we had the 13th, I attended a New London EDA meeting. And then last week, as all of you did, attended the fall policy meeting in Alexandria.
Commissioner Anderson.
Okay, yep. So after our last board meeting, then we attended the Public Works Department Road and Bridge meeting. And I enjoyed it. It was a good demonstration of the drone with the different road projects around the county, and I was glad that Jeremy Pfeiffer, and I can't think of the other guy that actually did the flying of the drone for those videos. Luke, I guess, did it. Anyway, so that was very informative, that meeting. It was also fun afterwards. They let us take turns flying the drone if we wanted, or running the new excavator that was out there. And it looks like that excavator is going to do a lot of good work for the county, and hopefully, I think, save money, or in the long term at least break even and be useful for whenever they need to do a project. They don't have to try to find somebody to hire for doing some of these smaller culverts that can go in with that excavator. Next thing I did was last week we had our AMC meeting, and I'm on the Environment and Natural Resources Policy Committee, and we talked about several different issues. We had people from like Soil and Water Conservation District give a talk, and we had one interesting thing was we had the Planning and Zoning administrator from Douglas County, Dave Rush. He he kind of gave a little presentation. He talked about Douglas County is, I believe that's the Alexandria area, and they have over 300 lakes in their county, and they have a lot of issues dealing with aquatic invasive species. And we talk about one lake getting an issue where they talk about several at a time, and what happens is you have people coming up from the metro area or the Mille Lacs area, and then they come out to their county, and that's kind of where they think they've been able to track how invasive species come into their area. Other things we did about legislative review, it wasn't real long because not a lot got done last session. For people that don't want government to do anything, it's great, but when you're looking for grant money to get local projects done, it's not very good to have happen, because it ends up costing us a lot more if we want to do things ourselves. There's a lot of grant and bonding money that didn't happen, so either things get pushed off or else we have to foot the bill ourselves. Other issues was, let's see. We talked about solar panels, and we brought up the discussion about what to do when it's basically, we want to come up with some sort of end-of-life management policy statewide, so that we can maybe get some legislation passed on how to deal with solar panels and wind turbines when they're done. Right now, they just basically can put them in a landfill, and the issue with that is it'll fill up our landfills a lot quicker with there's just a lot of stuff to be dealt with, and so we got to come up with some sort of policy on how to deal with these solar panels and wind turbines when they are no longer in use. I think that's about it for. One other issue, piece of legislation kind of came up mid-session last year or this year with drainage. A group was pushing drainage registry. It didn't pass. It passed the House, but then just got kind of left or set aside on the Senate side. It's called a drainage registry, and it looks kind of like, to me, like it would be another redundancy, which would kind of delay maintenance and repairs of ditches and maybe rivers and different issues for culverts and stuff. It was they want like a 30-day notice for people to comment on basically any kind of repairs, and for me, that's kind of frustrating if they do pass something like that, because there is already several processes or whatever for dealing with these repairs and maintenance. Some repairs and maintenance though need to be done right away, so we don't have more damage done to the lakes or ditches. So that was basically our discussion at that meeting.
Well, good update, Commissioner Anderson. Commissioner Nissen?
Yes. Well, road and bridge have been covered very well, and I do need a lesson or two on running a backhoe, but I at least was able to move some dirt or sand, whatever the heck I was operating. But that drone thing is a very good way to present, and saves a lot of driving around. And so broadband, we had a meeting regarding that, and we have a project that's been proposed in Lake Andrew Township and maybe Norway Lake Township and possibly Colfax. Folks, there's going to be a mailing coming out. Anyone who's listening, we need you to fill that out in a positive way so that the people that work locally with us are all for the project. They ran it up the flagpole to the upper echelon, and they're nervous about the fact that some of these properties may be seasonal, which is true. But seasonal properties, any property that has an opportunity to put in broadband to their property would be foolish not to. And that's because people are looking out in the future to be able to work from home, to work from the cabin. All of these things are really critical. So when you get that mailing, and you probably should have gotten it by now, please fill it out and send it back so we can hopefully get some broadband up in that area. We missed out on the last time, and so it would really be great. The Kaneohe County Historical Society is having their annual meeting in October. I got a mailing from them, which I didn't have a chance to look at yet, but and Larry knows this, we sell tickets every year for a dinner at the Sperry House.
Yep.
And I think it's only $5, I think.
It's a good deal.
And if it's more than that, it's still not a bad deal. But so I'm kind of hitting you all up for a ticket. And I don't have them with me today, so we'll have to get them to you. I think we're okay if we even do it at the next meeting. But
Or when we get together on the 27th. too.
yeah. So bring your wallets next time, and we'd love to be able to. And it goes for really a good cause, and upkeep of the Sperry House itself is an expensive proposition, and but it's a very enjoyable evening. I think Larry would attest to that.
It was a very good evening.
Yeah. Mid-Minnesota Development Commission, we discussed, among other things, well, we're still working on a failure to pay on a loan by one individual. However, the main discussion, and we didn't resolve it, in the past, we've had meetings at every point of our entire district, which goes all the way down to Meeker, McLeod County. Last meeting we had, it was in, and I can't even think of the name now. It's east of Hutchinson. It's just a little town. It starts with a P, but it's just not right there right now. It don't matter. It's not Thorpe, by the way.
Biscay or Biscay?
No. Let's not get bogged
Okay,
down
all
in
right.
the name. But I did offer, since we have a member here who owns a town, I did offer Thorpe as an option. But we're working on that, and some people, because of the distance driving, if we don't have a central location, it gets to be a long drive home at 9 o'clock at night. And so we're working on that, and we'll probably make a decision at our next meeting. At the AMC Fall Conference, I sat on the Public Safety Committee, and the issues we talked about there, very near and dear to Tammy Jo's heart, is the fair and equitable funding of probation, because right now the Department of Corrections slices off a bigger chunk for their operation than anybody else outstate gets, and it causes some problems. Also, funding of 911 and the radios is a problem, because it was formerly, all that money that we used to acquire radios and stuff was formerly, and the towers at which it would broadcast the 911, was funded by the seatbelt ticket revenue. Well, we did such a good job, we aren't giving any more tickets. So we need a different source of revenue for that. And the radios are getting old, and we're going to need a pretty good chunk of change to replace those. The other, well, we talked about a lot of things, but we talked about possibly, instead of public safety working on this exclusively, that we get together with the Health and Human Services part and talk about how do we deal with mental health issues, folks with mental health issues in the jail, and maybe finding a way to reduce some of that by working together with Health and Human Services on some programs. So that's my report, and I will
Pass it on. Okay, Commissioner Gardner, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Several items. First, I do serve on the Supporting Hands Nurse Family Partnership Joint Powers Board, and I was asked to serve on the interview committee as we look for a new executive director. And I'm pleased to say that we have final interviews coming up this Friday. We interviewed 8 candidates, actually 7. One dropped at the last minute. And we came up with 3 really good candidates that we'll be visiting with Friday afternoon, and we'll see where we go from from that point in time, but I am completely confident that we're going to have a first-class executive director for that organization. And just as a reminder, Supporting Hands Nurse Family Partnership is 21 counties, Joint Powers Board, and they work primarily with first-time mothers. Next item, actually, after the Welcoming Week festivities downtown a week ago Friday, I sat in on a meeting with over at UCAP with staff and as well as members of the East African community. The conversation quickly revolved around a major landlord in the area who was collecting rents and not fixing physical and maintenance issues. The stories of black mold in bedrooms, water running down into the basement of buildings after heavy rain events, refrigerators with no cords on them. It's untenable. And I suspect that conversations are happening perhaps as we speak with some of the other local units of government and other entities that I believe are probably going to have to force action upon this entity. And so we'll be working with that. I did have a great conversation with one of our colleagues from Ramsey County, Commissioner Trista Matas Castillo, and her constituency is very, very similar to ours, and specifically that of my particular district. And they have experience in working with other entities to get compliance from these, frankly, bad actors. So looking forward to seeing that begin to be resolved, either voluntarily or otherwise. Sat in the other morning on the Vision 2040 reboot meeting. So Vision 2040 is trying to determine if the efforts that they've taken over the last 8 or 9 years, if they should continue, if the organization should be put on pause while the next iteration of this is envisioned, or if there's appetite to bring new people and new efforts forward. And this is, of course, across all of Kandiyohi County. But in terms of the leadership team, there are several retirements, including our administrator, several others that are probably going to happen within the next several years, if not more imminently than that. And frankly, the reason Vision 2040 was started to begin with, that came out of the old Vision 2020 group. And when we went into that first meeting for Vision 2040, they said, rightly, we as the leaders of this effort, we are tired. We've been doers and leaders forever. And we are tired. We need other people to step up. Well, now we have sort of the same thing happening now. Here's the issue. It's more and more difficult to find people to step in, especially when we're looking in that cohort from ages, say, 30 to 50. They have kids, they have lives, they lead active lives already. Their family work obligations aren't necessarily conducive to sitting down and having forever meetings. It's kind of the same thing that we see when we talk about people stepping into elected office. The commitment level is greater than a lot of folks in that cohort can give us. So part of the conversation revolved around having more bite-sized types of projects, things that we might be able to have happen, along with on-ramps and off-ramps so people can participate as they see fit. I look forward to those discussions as we move forward, because that's frankly something that I've been talking about for, well, probably since February or March. So hopefully we get into that, but we'll see what the report is as that comes out. AMC Policy Conference last week. Participated in some conversation revolving around two of our higher priorities, which of course are childcare and housing, and continuing to learn more about what other local units of government are potentially doing to help enable more workforce and affordable housing efforts. Just as a side note to that, the AMC Foundation held a beanbag tournament that several of us participated in to varying degrees of success. And it was one of the most delightful and entertaining things that I've been able to participate in a long time. If you need to know more, ask our chairman. Finally, upcoming this week, I have a meeting of the state Public Health Systems Transformation Work Group. I reported on this earlier, that I was named to this work group, which is comprised of representatives from Minnesota Department of Health, Association of Public Health Administrators, and the State Community Health Systems Advisory Committee, which is our representing our local public health board for Candy, Ohio, and Renville counties. And the nice thing about this, what I'm looking forward to, is all three of these entities are coming to the table as equal partners. The meetings are going to be facilitated by a third party, and it's our job to envision what a just and equitable healthcare system is going to look like. And it was really important for me to hear when I sat in on the public health subcommittee at AMC last week. When we talk about equity, we're not talking just about racial equity, but we're talking about age equity. We're talking about rural equity. We're talking about all of these things. My job on this work group is to represent rural interests. And so any thoughts, any information that you want to provide me or ask me about as this goes along, be more than happy to listen to that. So I'm looking forward to that, and with that, that is my report.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Gardner, and just really want to comment about your comment about the beanbag game. And as you pointed out, I probably wasn't the strongest member of our group, but a few members of our group chipped in some money, and as the game goes, you get to have some advantages throwing the beanbag. And then, well, thank you for that, I guess. But moving on from there, I also, though, want to talk about, and the advantage of that beanbag was to raise money for AMC Foundation, and they raised a lot of money on that as well. But I want to just commend Candy County in reference to the United Way, and Administrator Kleindahl and Administrative Office and Karen and Connie and Lisa and the department heads and Mel, and excellent job of really promoting the United Way this time. And do you have a figure about what the total amount was?
So
approximately?
Well, we're not done yet, so you still have this week to donate.
Okay,
But I believe we're around a little over $9,600 and some dollars, I believe.
that's pretty fantastic.
But like I said, this is a week that we're trying to get individuals now to donate.
Okay.
If you haven't paid in the United Way, it's been a great team building. This is something that our staff really needed this last week. It was a blast. It really was a blast.
That's good. Great for great for the agency, great for the staff, and thank you to the staff too for the extra time. This was beyond their regular duties that they're doing this to make this all happen. So thank you, and thank you for the two people that's sitting at this table that. One did go to jail and raised some of the money, and one almost did. And thank you for stepping forward. So, anyway, moving on from there, I want to share my experience too with AMC, and that was actually 3 days. It really took up of all of our time, but a very good conference, And I serve on the Health and Human Services Committee, and just being a policy committee, and nothing much happened last year, so we were thinking maybe it'd be the same, but we really had some good discussions. Things have changed a lot even this last year. Not that the concerns were similar to a degree, but things are getting more and more serious throughout the counties, as we all found out. And so we also had a pre-conference Zoom meeting on Thursday the 8th prior to going to AMC, and we've never done that before. So we had homework, and we came to the meeting and with ideas and discussion, and tried to look at priorities and go through all the steps to make something presentable as we go forward, suggesting policy and working with the legislators for this next term, whenever that's going to happen, or the last term, finish that off. But it was a good discussion, and it's also interesting that this time, more so than any other time, a lot of common subjects came up, I think, across all the policy committees, or many of them. Housing, we never talked about housing before in Health and Human Services, and now we are. Childcare, of course, that's a natural to be there, but that's even being talked in the other areas as well. And mental health has gotten even bigger and bigger, and that's spilling over into the other area of policy. So we got a lot to deal with, and the situation with children's services and even adult mental health services, that it's reaching a very serious point that the feeling is the state's not stepping up as being a safety net. Where do we place these kids? And there's, talk about those. We heard, from some supervisors that or directors about having to call the staff 140 plus places for a placement for a kid that's really with a very high need kid, and nobody would be able to take them or place them. And there's actually some counties that ended up with having to take care of the kids themselves. That the social workers, and they had to use county buildings to house these kids until they could find a place. And we hopefully don't get to that situation, but we need the state to step up, and we need more leadership and beds in regional areas. Now it's the whole state we're looking at, and we need help financially in developing our own regional facilities to a degree, or more of the state facilities, or most likely a combination of both. And we also had a discussion that we have these really high needs, and I mean, some of these placements are so expensive, and it falls back on the counties to pay for, and that's our property tax dollars, and it can break budgets, one or two kids. Commissioner Nissen.
Just one thing from our discussion of mental health. Some county had to send some child out to Utah. I mean, that's, can you imagine the cost to that county?
Yes.
Unbelievable. Go ahead. I just wanted to throw.
No,
that's
right, good to know that. Exactly, yeah. We've gone backwards in the area for services for families and children, and in mental health, both for adults and children. But we're moving forward and trying to come up with plans to deal with that. Probably enough said about that committee, and now my computer went off. Okay, get myself logged back in here. I attended MnDOT open house. They had a statewide open house on the 7th from 4 to 6 at MnDOT here. It wasn't a huge crowd, let's put it that way. It was more of a Zoom meeting as well, and looking at the state needs. But it was interesting to be there, and I did show up. That same day, I had a Hawk Creek One Watershed Plan meeting, and we're still working, putting the nuts and bolts together, how we're going to proceed. The money is going to be coming in now, and we should probably receive the grant that we get for forming our One Watershed Plan, and it should be in the works now, and we will be soon moving forward with some projects. So I'm excited about that. We had the Road and Bridge meeting, I won't say anything more about that. I had an EDC Workforce Committee meeting. It was a good meeting, but really not much more to comment. That same day, on Friday the 9th, I had a Hot Creek Project meeting, and not a meeting, but they had their annual annual picnic that they had in Maynard, and I attended that, and it was good to meet some of the other employees and all the other counties and agencies that do contract with them. And I was busy signing a lot of papers for Karens and other people that somehow get missed or needs extra signatures. And that summarizes quite well. Is there anything else at this point that any commissioner wants to bring up as we move forward? Otherwise, I will declare the meeting adjourned.